So, this morning my mom had Meet the Press on television, hosted by the one, the only Cuck Todd. And they were going to do a segment about Evan McMullin, the quote-unquote third-party candidate, running as an independent against these established Republicans and Democrats. And Cuck Todd said, and up next we're going to be interviewing Evan McMullin, who's on November 8th, he might turn Ohio not red, not blue, but maybe green? And of course, what Mr. Cuck Todd was referring to is that Evan the Egghead McMullin is essentially a third-party candidate. At least that's the label he has. So if Evan McMullin happens to win Ohio, which won't happen, then will McMullin turn Ohio a blue state, like a Democrat state? Will McMullin turn it into a red state, like a Republican state? Or will it be green, because he's not red or blue? He's not Democrat or Republican. He's Evan McMullin, your friendly third-party anti-establishment candidate that we all know, love, and trust, right? So I guess he's going to turn Ohio green. We need a third color for this anti-establishment third party. This is particularly sinister because the establishment was slayed this election cycle. It wasn't slayed by Bernie Sanders, who was, put forward as a true, socialist revolutionary who's going to fight the establishment. No, he endorsed the fucking establishment, the quintessential Wall Street candidate. No, the establishment was slayed by none other than Donald Trump. If you recall, during the Republican primaries months ago, the Republican establishment tried to rob the election through the delegate system of Donald Trump. Luckily, Trump is not a weak bitch. In fact, Trump is actually finally someone with balls. And because Trump is not a weak bitch, he was able to actually fight the establishment. The political establishment that has been bullshitting the American people, putting forward these puppet candidates for decades now, saying, I'm going to do this for you. And then when they get elected, they do the exact opposite and further sell out the American people to foreign interests. So Donald Trump was actually able to slay the establishment, and the establishment is desperate. And what they did was, the Republican Party, they put out, really, when I say the Republican Party, really, it's not really the Republican Party. It's the Republican and the Democrat Party, because the establishment at the top is the exact same force. They're the exact same fucking forces. That's why George Bush Sr. endorsed Hillary Clinton. Because there was never a difference between the two parties. We know this. We've known this for a long time. This is not breaking news. But this demonic person right here, Evan McMullin, was spawned forward by the establishment. He was put forward by the Republican establishment that got slayed by Donald Trump and the Trump train. They put this fucking guy forward, and they put him forward as some kind of a third-party alternative. In reality, the Republican Party got hijacked by Trump, so these fucking scoundrels had to start their own fucking party. And then in order to make themselves look more appealing than just another establishment puppet, they say, oh, look, we're not running as Republican. Well, the only reason you're not running as Republican is because you have no choice, because we, the Trump train, took that bitch over. So you put this guy forward, and they market Evan McMullin as a third-party anti-establishment candidate. That's what Cuck Todd said on Meet the Press this morning. He's like, well, Evan McMullin, is he going to turn Ohio green? Because it can't be blue and it can't be red. It can't be Democrat, it can't be Republican. This guy is the Democrat and the Republican establishment. He is the quintessential Republican/Democrat hybrid. And it's just particularly sinister that the quintessential establishment candidate, I mean, this is basically Mitt Romney. This is basically George Bush. It's basically the exact same thing. This guy is basically George Bush Republican. Okay? Ready to sell this country's interests out to foreign interests. But you don't see that because he markets himself as a third party. And anybody who's dumb enough to think that this guy is some kind of third party anti-establishment candidate, I mean, I've gotten sort of a sense from libertarian, the anti-Trump libertarians, the never-Trump libertarians, that there's almost like they're on the same team with this guy. A lot of these never Trump libertarians. Not necessarily because they agree with Evan McMullin, but more because they feel like they're on the same team because they're a third-party alternative candidate, like Gary Johnson. He's a third-party libertarian. That's how dumb and mindless never Trump libertarians are. They think that just because someone runs as third party, that means that they're anti-establishment, they're somehow this great alternative to the evil two-party duopoly. When in reality, when Ron Paul, a libertarian god, ran as a Republican in 2012, we all knew that Ron Paul wasn't really a Republican. And if Ron Paul had won the Republican nomination, that would not have meant that Ron Paul was some kind of establishment puppet. The same is true with Trump. But never Trump libertarians who like to market Gary Johnson by saying, don't vote for any of the two major parties, Republican and Democrat. They're both the same. They're bought and paid for. And that's not true anymore after the Trump train came. Now that Trump took over the Republican Party, you can no longer say that the Republicans equal the Democrats. They don't. At best, you could say that the Republican establishment and the Republican and the Democrat establishment, they're the same. But you can't say that the Trump Republican Party is just, oh, Republicans equal Democrats. There's no way you could say that logically. It's not true. But that's how dumb never Trump libertarians are. They think it's cool to say the old cliched, sentiments from 2012. Yeah, in 2012, it was totally realistic and hip and cool and relevant to say, yeah, Democrats equal Republicans, man. They're both the same. Yeah, it made sense to say that in 2012 because we were still being spoon-fed the lie that there was a difference between the two parties. But in 2016, never Trump libertarians, okay, listen. In 2016, that's irrelevant, and that doesn't even make sense anymore. Republican equal Democrat, bro. Don't vote for Donald Trump, man. You gotta vote for a third-party alternative like Gary Johnson or maybe Evan McMullin. No, bro. They're the same shit. Evan McMullin is not really some kind of anti-establishment candidate. He is the Republican establishment, and Donald Trump is the true anti-establishment candidate. Never Trump libertarians can't fucking wrap their heads around this. That, or never Trump libertarians pretend they don't like Trump because Trump violates libertarian principles. That's why we don't like Trump. I think half these never Trump libertarians are just basically closet SJWs, or the other half of them, they're just jealous. They don't like Trump because they envy a powerful white guy. There's a million reasons. I found that most people who don't like Trump, they're never forthright about the real reasons they like Trump. You have to probe them for like 10 minutes, and finally they'll come out and say, okay, fine. The reason I don't like Donald Trump is because he's such a brash guy. Or because, he emboldens that rah Americana type sentiment. And I don't think that's a good thing. There's always an underlying reason. Everyone who dislikes Trump always has some subliminal reason that they don't disclose outright. You have to probe them psychologically to find out what the real reason is. Very creepy. Makes you really question their intentions. So that's it. Cuck Todd being his usual cuck self. Evan McMullin being his usual establishment self. And Donald Trump, as usual, being his very ballsy self. Take care, guys. By the way, link to the shirt is below. Take care.
Fight back against YouTube censorship by supporting me on Patreon. You'll also get access to exclusive, never-before-seen videos and other perks like monthly Google Hangouts with me, free books and t-shirts, and more.